Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to go over the Brexiteers' latest flap. Oh, which one, you ask? There's been a few. Fair enough. In this case, the plans for a multi-layered EU, which seeks to solve a few issues with Eastern European membership, but would also grease the wheels to the UK's return as well. Brexiteers seem to be in full panic mode over this prospect. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So Macron's plan for a sort of tiered EU back in the UK news with Keir Starmer's visit to Paris and his comments about not wanting to diverge standards with the EU, something that Brexiteers are going, oh, look what he's saying now. It's like, yeah, he said it a year ago, mate, catch up. But the alarm for the extreme Brexiteers is clear. This idea for what was being described as associate membership of the EU really has its roots in dealing with the differences between what you might call sort of old and new European powers. So for the founder members of the EEC, the European project was ultimately about peace. After the Second World War, people were so sick of major European powers starting a war with each other every few years that they decided to tackle it through interdependence on trade. It worked stunningly well. The model worked so well that other countries wanted to sign up who weren't necessarily all that bothered about the peace project, including, of course, the UK. But where a number of Eastern European countries are concerned, you know, along with Britain as a sort of outlier, it's really the economic benefits they want. They don't necessarily approve of the political harmonisation. The current one-size-fits-all model has created a certain amount of friction. There's also a problem with Ukraine. The EU want to bring Ukraine into the fold as quickly as possible, and of course Ukraine wants that as well. But even if they re-establish their borders, it would be a long time before Ukraine meets the political requirements for full EU membership. It's been openly discussed that there's benefits to having a country like Ukraine join the single market before becoming full members. You know, that would help deal with some of the issues which would otherwise be posed. But more than that, it may well be that some countries would be happy with that arrangement, not as a stepping stone to full membership, but just in itself. It's like, no, this is grand. We're happy with this. Thank you very much. We'll just stay here now. And right now, there is technically no way to join the single market without either becoming a member of EFTA or a member of the European Union. But there are advantages in getting the economic alignment done ahead of political alignment. And although this plan has Ukraine and the Balkans particularly in mind, it's an intriguing proposition for the UK as well. The aim of Macron's plan is to be ready for about 2030. Now, obviously nothing certain yet, it's just a proposal. There's been no agreement in the wider EU, even on a, on a principle basis. Oh yes, we're all right in principle, let's work out the details. Although Germany are very much on board now. But if we consider where the UK will be by then, if we sort of think in terms of the timelines. So we're expecting an election sometime in the next year. Could be this November, could be next May, could be next November, that'd be mad. But, you know, I think sooner rather than later, but who knows. Now, assuming we can keep Keir Starmer away from any bacon sandwiches before then, Labour will win that election and will be looking to form closer economic and security ties with the EU. They've made no secret of those priorities. But they're also saying that they won't rejoin the EU or even the Single Market and Customs Union. But of course, anything they say now is only for one parliament. I mean, let's be clear. The Tories have spent most of this parliament ripping up their manifesto anyway. So the idea that a party cannot adjust its policies for a following parliament is, of course, completely bonkers. That following election could well be May 2028. That would probably be the favourite. And that would be after several more years of fruitful cooperation with the EU. But problems still evident as a result of being outside the single market and the customs union. I mean, you know, there's so much you can do. But ultimately, while you're outside the single market and customs union, you've got that trade friction, right? And it does not seem to me to be a stretch that in this time, Labour will have nearly exhausted all of the improvements that it can make as a third country option. But rejoining the EU may still be politically tricky at this time. We'll have to see where public opinion carries on going, but it's still possible that that might be a bridge too far. After all, the issue of the pound will come up, and that's a much bigger issue than people really realise. I think in time it will be less of an issue, but I've also said that it is possible we could get an opt-out of the euro anyway, but there is no way of saying that until we formally begin accession talks. There will be no way of guaranteeing that before those negotiations have taken place, and the negotiations cannot take place until the UK says we want to discuss joining the EU, right? So to start work on rejoining is to accept that we might have to agree to adopt the euro at some point. But by that time, by the time that 2028 election rolls around, if this plan of Macron's for, associate membership gets off the ground, it will surely be in the latter stage of implementation. If the aim is to try and have this ready for 2030, then by 2028, we'll know it's coming. The details will be there. We will have a very good idea of exactly what it involves. And if it's a good fit for the UK, this associate membership could be something that we adopt and maintain in the long term, or it could be a stepping stone to full membership later on. It's designed to be flexible, either part of a journey or the final destination, depending on the needs of the country involved. And that's what makes it so dangerous to Brexiteers. See, right now, the only easy, proper reversal of Brexit is the customs union. We can do that without any great hassle, legally speaking. Politically, it may be trickier, but legally, we just have to say to the EU, we'd like to negotiate a customs union. All right, do you want this one we already had? Yeah, sure, that'd be great. Pretty much it. We'd have to leave the CPTPP, but sod it, it's not like anyone voted to join it anyway. But the focus tends to be on the single market or full membership. The single market on its own is tricky, being technically impossible without a special arrangement. And full membership takes a long time, with changes required to much of our national infrastructure. People think, well, because we were in the single market recently, because we're in the EU recently, we could just join it again. It's like, yeah, but we had a lot of opt-outs that we're not going to get back, including our currency. Why, we might get one or two back, but we're not going to get them all back. So we are definitely going to have to make some major changes. So it will take a long time, right? Politically tricky. Brexiteers probably feel reasonably safe from the risk of rejoining, even though they all claim that Keir Starmer has secret plans to rejoin the EU, I don't know, sometime on the Tuesday after he wins the election. But associate membership, would the public really object to that? See, the whole idea of this associate membership proposal is you get all the economic benefits without that political alignment. Oh, we don't like this closer and closer political union. Oh, no, you don't get that. It's just the economic side of it. Oh, splendid. It's the political alignment that the Brexiteers spent all their energy raging against. The political alignment. They didn't argue against the trade alignment. Why would the public object to frictionless trade without needing that political alignment? Sounds like the best of both worlds, doesn't it? I mean, the freedom of movement would be the Brexiteers' main trump card, because they pushed that on the immigration front. But there's been an interesting shift in people's attitudes to immigration recently as well. It's been so that trump card has been weakened of late. Being clear, polls now show a majority of the public would vote to rejoin the EU if we could get our previous terms. There are other polls who are specifically asking, well, if you had to give up the pound, would you still want to rejoin? And they're finding quite a lot of going, ooh, no, I'm not sure about that. So getting our pre-existing terms is not viable. We know that. We can't get all our opt-outs back. We can try, but it would just waste everyone's time to do so, and it's simply not realistic. But part of our previous terms was already accepting freedom of movement, wasn't it? So if we can show from polling that a majority of the public support rejoining, which they know includes freedom of movement, then surely a majority support this associate membership thing, where the only thing we'd have to accept, which is considered politically tricky, is freedom of movement. And until an agreement in principle comes along, it's not even tricky. I've seen some people say, oh, this might put Labour under pressure, they'll be asked about it. It should be easy, as long as they don't panic. All they have to do is say, what do you want me to comment on? Oh, this proposal of Macron's. What's the details of this proposal? Oh, there aren't any details. Well, what am I going to comment on then? It's easy, isn't it? How can I comment on something for which there's no details? By the time this proposal has flesh on its bones, if it ever does, then Labour will already be in power and pushing closer alignment with the EU anyway. Obviously, right now, those of us who want to rejoin are having to frame the plan in the here and now. You know, we're pushing for rejoining because you can't just join the single market and then think about joining the EU later. You know, it's actually easier legally and politically just to join the whole EU. Joining the customs union and then joining the EU. That's my plan. Too complicated to join the single market separately. Might not even be politically possible, like I say. But assuming Macron gets this proposal off the ground, I can absolutely see the path changing in a few years. I see no reason why we can't be on the ground floor with this associate membership along with Ukraine. Let's see Boris Johnson moan about that. Oh, we're standing shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine. Oh, bother. You know, it wouldn't be good enough for me, I don't think. And you know, why should a G7 economy be part of a trading bloc where we don't decide the rules? Of course we should push for fuller membership from there. And I think that's a logic that will occur to a lot of people as well, but we will see. But I think that's what's got the Brexiteers really concerned. This associate membership may suit some countries, you know, as an end game, but logically should only be another step for the UK back to getting our star back. You know, I even wonder if Labour's Brexit position is working along these lines. Because they'll be having discussions behind closed doors with a lot more frank than they do publicly. Will they be thinking about this? Because, I mean, if it becomes a reality and Labour propose it in the 2028 manifesto, wouldn't be hard, would it? Oh, but you said there wasn't a case for rejoining the EU. This isn't rejoining the EU. Oh, but you said we wouldn't go back into the single market. Well, there wasn't a way to do that without joining the EU before. Now there is. Things have changed. Oh, yeah. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.